Good morning, everybody. On this very, very, very cold morning, probably one of the coldest we're going to experience this year, maybe, but who knows? Anything is possible. My name is Happy Makumalo Ngidi. I am the Chief Marketing Officer at Proudly South African, and I'm also your Program Director today. So welcome to the session where we'll be talking about what is probably one of the most important session and discussion to have under the circumstances. A warm welcome to all our speakers who are really industry experts who are going to bring much needed value to the session. Speakers that we handpicked specifically. Mr. Eustace Mashimbe is CEO of Proudly South African, and he'll give context in regards to what we want to achieve as Proudly South African in terms of the session we're having this morning. Then we'll hear from Mr. Stuart Jones, who is a Channel Marketing Executive, RCL Foods. We will also hear from Wendy Alberts. Wendy is the CEO of the Restaurant Association of South Africa. We will then also hear from Mr. Terence Loma, who is MD and founder of Makamisa Foods, and pleased to say that he is also a member of the campaign for the last couple of years. And last but not least, we're going to hear from Simele Shange, who is co-founder of a business called Josie Cloud Kitchens. Welcome to all our speakers. Welcome to the attendees. We appreciate the fact that you heeded the call and showed up this morning. Welcome to all our member companies, our stakeholders, and media that is in attendance today. So without further ado, I mean, today's session, we all know, is about zooming into the challenges, if you like, that the restaurant industry is currently facing. And the third wave obviously, has hit us. And when we had that second last family meeting with the president, where he then announced level 4, it takes me to some of the images that were making the rounds on social media platforms, where waiters and people that work in restaurants were really just the devastation on their faces, because for them it's a livelihood reality. It's about them going home and telling their families that they're unable to provide. It's as simple as that. But a heart-wrenching reality for many in that industry. We know that the local eateries, restaurants support an entire value chain. So it's not even about only the people that are working in those restaurants, or it's beyond that. The value chain is massive. It's about the transportation, deliveries, logistics, all of those things. And there are many other businesses that are affected by the reality that we find ourselves in. And so with that said, as an ex-restaurant owner, I do have a big appreciation of the fact that selling food, just selling food or takeaways will never sustain that kind of business. It is about, it's more than that. It's about the ambiance. It's about the experience in the actual restaurant. It's about the food, of course. It's about food. It's about drinks. It's about alcohol as well. Because and I can tell you that many will argue that the bigger part of the revenue is generated from drinks and alcohol, as well as food, but in a combination of both. So with that, opening that I've just, shared with you, it gives me great pleasure to say that we've really, and like I said, earlier on, that we handpicked our speakers today because they are experts in the field, and they really have credible value and great value to add to this conversation today. So with that said, I'm pleased to introduce Mr. Eustace Mashimbie, who is the CEO of Proudly South African, who will give us opening remarks and really give context in terms of why we think, as Proudly South African, it is important to have this discussion. In fact, important would be an understatement. Why we thought that it's critical to host this session. Welcome, Eustace. The floor, the platform is yours. Thank you.
Yes, the literal floor, the imaginary floor. Thank you very much, Program Director. As introduced, my name is Eustace Mashimbie, and I'll be taking you through a few introductory remarks just to help set the scene, but to also give you a sense of who Proudly South African is, why we do this, and how we fit in within this whole value chain that is the restaurant business and the restaurant industry. And so I have a few slides that I'll take you through, and basically we're a buy local campaign. As you can see in the opening slide, it's a lady standing outside of business, and thanks you for buying local, for supporting local, for choosing local, because that's the only way we can help turn the tide that we have as a country, which is a tide on the triple challenges. We're a country that battles three main challenges. One, inequality where the haves continue to have and the have-nots continue to not have. And this is really as a result of the high unemployment levels, and the high unemployment levels continue to breed a lot of poverty within our society. If you look at the unemployment numbers in this country, they're as high as having about 7.2 million of our people who are actively looking for jobs not being able to find jobs. And this is a country with a population of between 59 and 60 million people. So of those who are eligible to work, 7.2 are not able to find jobs. And if you add those who are discouraged, which is another 3.1 million people, we have in excess of 10 million of our people who are unemployed. In fact, in terms of the expanded definition of unemployment, there's about 11.4 million people who are not in employment, who could potentially be in employment. 3.1 are not looking, are discouraged. And there's another million who are not giving reasons as to why they're not searching. So the unemployment levels are much higher than what we are told through the 32.6%, because the expanded definition gives you a sense of how many more are looking that can't find jobs. So the situation is really dire. And how have other countries dealt with it? How have other countries been able to ensure that they can get their people into jobs? And it's through this concept of supporting local, of buying local. And that's why a campaign like ours exists. It's tried and tested all over the world. And in fact, in developed economies like Australia, the US, and in the UK, there are campaigns that seek to ensure that people support local and choose local eateries, choose locally made products, and support services that are rendered within the borders of those countries. Even in the context of our continent itself, we have, as Proudly South African, assisted a few of countries within the continent to establish their own buy local campaigns, including Zambia, Swaziland, Malawi, Zimbabwe, Mauritius, and Tunisia. And if you look at a case study that we have decided to share with you this morning, it's of the US. The US have, as far back as 1933, put legislation in place, acts in place that makes it compulsory and mandatory for those who buy on behalf of the federal government to choose locally made products. In 1982, they followed that initial act with the Buy America Act, and in 2017, they issued improvements to that act. But even during April 2021, we saw that the president, who has just come into office, he again addressed the joint houses, both Senate and Congress, and he spoke about the importance of localization and local procurement and supporting local industries within the US. And within the first week of him coming into office, he signed executive orders to that effect. So it still remains at the heart of their strategy, the economic strategy, as the United States, and this is one of the most powerful economies in the world. So if they believe in localization, who are we as a developing economy not to do that? In terms of our mandate as Proudly South African, and in the context of South Africa, we have a buy local campaign that you have probably come across. You've seen the logo Proudly South African, but you probably did not know what it stands for. It's about not just being proud of the fact that you're South African, but it's about your consumption patterns. What are you buying? Where is it coming from? If you buy a product that comes from China, you're supporting the economy of China. It's as easy as that. If you're a business person and within your business, you utilize a lot of raw materials and components and other consumables, and you're not buying those locally, you're not buying those that are sourced and made locally, you are supporting the economies of the countries from which it comes from, and that's what Proudly South African is about. And our 4 focus areas are, we look at buying that happens in the public sector. We look at legislation that is in the public sector. Fortunately, in South Africa, we were able to put legislation in place in the public sector, which forces government to choose locally made products when buying certain items. We look at what is being bought in the private sector, what is bought by the restaurants themselves. With their furniture that they're utilizing in their restaurants coming from local sources. They want us to support them. Are they supporting local industries? There are other industries that would benefit from the purchasing decisions that are made by the restaurants, and it cuts across all other industries and all other businesses. So we then focus on getting the private sector to buy local. We educate the general public on the importance of buying local, for the masses out there to understand that the jobs that we are so desperate for will come from the purchasing decisions that we make. We all know someone who's unemployed. The unemployment numbers tell a story. How can we ensure that those people get into jobs and that they stay in those jobs? And that is what the Proudly South African campaign is about. It's about educating consumers on the importance of buying local. We also promote accessibility of locally made products by maintaining a database of local products and services so that anyone who wants to choose to buy local can, through us, find those locally made products and services. And if you use my example of the furniture industry, you get restaurants who might want to heed our call to say they're going to ensure that all their furniture going forward will be sourced locally. And so we will make sure that we direct them to local producers, not to middlemen who will pose as furniture suppliers, whilst all the furniture that they're supplying comes from outside of the country. We have a responsibility to ensure that those who manufacture products with the intent of ensuring that consumers access those products and reach those products through some sort of a retail platform, get the support that they require. And so the role of Proudly South African is to ensure that, if you think of a classical retail value chain, as a manufacturer, you manufacture and you hope that retailers will give you shelf space, but the retailer will only give you your product shelf space if they know that consumers will buy it. I mean, one of the examples that we use the most in our sessions is South African wines. We have wines that are made in South Africa, but we also have wines that come from outside of South Africa. So if you walk into any place where you buy your wines, any retail place where you buy your wines, you will find an array of wines. But the most of the time, what you will see are products that consumers continue to buy. So if a retailer gives shelf space to a product, a wine product, and no one buys it, they're going to take it off their shelves. So the intention behind a campaign like behind having a campaign like ours is to ensure that wine product that is made in South Africa gets supported and gets chosen by consumers every single time, so that retailers continue to give it shelf space. And that's basically the responsibility of Proudly South African, is to ensure that consumers demand locally made products so that retailers continue to give it shelf space, because if it's not bought, they're going to take it off the shelves and the shelf space will go to imported products. And that is how we lose all the jobs. And that's basically the responsibility of Proudly South African. So think of the restaurant business in South Africa. What is happening in that industry? And I know Wendy will probably talk to this, but just to touch on the importance of this industry and why we chose to zoom in on this industry today and to talk about how and why it needs to be supported. These are numbers from September 2019, where 330,000 people were working in hotels and restaurants industry in South Africa. So those are massive job opportunities that are created by this industry. If you look at the last 10 years, there was a growth in employment in this industry of about 78,000 employees. And the contribution to the GDP is massive in that the income and per income category per outlet in January 2019 points to the fact that from food sales, restaurants generate about 2 trillion. If you look at takeaway and fast food outlets, they also have contributed another 2 trillion. So there's a lot of money that 2.1 billion, sorry. And income from bar sales and from catering services for the 2.9 million that comes from that industry. So the industry itself contributes massive amounts of money to the GDP of the country and to the revenue that is generated from the country for the country. Because if you think of it, we need taxes, corporate taxes to go up. So the more people open businesses, the more opportunities for government to generate revenue. The more people get employed, the more opportunities are there for government to generate personal tax revenue. So corporate tax and personal tax both are generated and increase whenever there are businesses that thrive and whenever people get into jobs. And that is the money that is then utilized by government to provide all the basic services that we require, from health, education, safety and security, and all of those that are important for our day-to-day living. And so it's important that an industry like this is supported. Some of the downsides of it is that before lockdown, the food and beverages industry contributed 6 billion rand monthly to the SA economy, with 15,006 sit-down restaurants. But at least 70% of these have had to retrench employees during this time. And even after the lockdown restrictions are lifted, recovery in the sector is expected to be slow. As dining now becomes a luxury for many people who are unemployed, who don't have income, and so it's not necessarily something that you will choose to do over and above, the other basic things that you need to cover. If you're unemployed and there's no income, restaurants are not necessarily high up your list of things that you need to spend money on. And so the importance of this industry and the impact it has on other industries is now heightened as a result of the fact that we need to get more people back into jobs so that the industry itself can have more people that can afford to go and support it. And so we've chosen one product that is utilized in the restaurants business, and that's sugar. Sugar is utilized in various forms, as a downstream product, especially in that industry. It starts off with the sugar farms. The sugar farms, small-scale farmers who in the main are new market entrants, who need transformation imperatives to be driven such that their products can end up with consumers. They need the products, the sugarcane farms to work. They employ people there, and the products are then taken to the sugar mills, and the millers then further process that raw material that comes from the sugar farms, such that it goes into manufacturers like Qlets, who then will sell it onwards to the downstream users like restaurants, etc. So if you look at this whole value chain, it shows you that the multiplier effect of a small product like sugar impacts on many industries. There are jobs that are created in each and every one of those processes. The sugar farmers, or the sugarcane farmers, or the growers have jobs in that space. The millers have jobs in that space. The actual manufacturers and processors have jobs in that sectors, in their space. And those who then utilize the actual product themselves also have jobs created. So every time you walk into a restaurant and a product as small as sugar is supported as a result of you choosing to buy a meal that has sugar used as one of the ingredients. There are jobs that you've supported across all of those industries. And that's what we seek to demonstrate. That it's not just about that one meal. It's not just about that one cup of coffee that you buy where you pour one or two, depending on your intake of sugar, spoons of sugar into it. You have effectively, just with that one purchase, supported all of these industries. And Stuart will talk about the value chains as well as the one meal, many thanks campaign that they rolled out in the previous year, because it's about demonstrating the fact that if support restaurants so that we can support all those jobs that come from that support or that you're giving to them. In the public sector, there's a designation that was made in the previous year where in the previous years, as far back as 2012, all of those items that you see on the screen were chosen for local procurement. So every time government buys any of these products, they're meant to buy them from local producers, not from middlemen who are going to supply imported products, but from local producers. And there is work being done to expand on those items. If you look at number 4, canned processed vegetables, government buys these items. They're also utilized in this industry. And so the intention is to ensure that as government buys these items, they buy them from local producers. So government has designated the items. We look out for the opportunities that are issued in that space. We track the tenders. We identify local manufacturers and send them the tenders so that they can respond to those tenders. And we assist government correct tenders where they're not compliant to ensure that government buys local. In that regard, we're ensuring that those who come into business with a view of getting support from government are supported by government. In the private sector, what we do is we secure localization commitments. We go into the private sector and we ask the private sector to choose items that they're going to buy local. And the example that I gave is one of furniture, where we're saying to the restaurants, to the hotels, to the independent schools, to the hospital groups, anyone who buys a furniture, we're saying if you are going to buy a furniture item, choose one that is locally made. We will then identify suitable companies in our base that you can buy from so that you ensure that you are not duped into buying an imported item that is disguised as a locally made product. Through our processes, we ensure that corporates utilize our system and can then access transformed entities if that is their wish, but also access local producers. And we then monitor the spending that happens in that space. We have, over time, developed portals. I mean, restaurant businesses, as you opened up, you know that you needed to have cloth face masks, hand sanitizers, and detergents and disinfectants, face shields in some instances, as well as medical PPEs for you to continue doing business. And so we've created our portals to ensure that as much as we are going to appeal to South Africans, and we've been doing it, to say they need to support this industry, the industry also needs to support all of those who make these items and you buy them locally. We have also created a portal for locally made furniture. And for those of you who do not necessarily know where to find locally made furniture, use our website. Go to the Proudly SA website. On the furniture portal, you will then find locally made products. So for the purpose of today, I've rushed through the public sector and the private sector space because the focus for today is really on consumers. So as I wrap up, Program Director, I want to focus on what we're doing in the consumer space. We have created an online store which makes it easy for anyone, any consumer who wants to buy local, to choose and find locally made products. There are a lot of online stores out there, but with this online store, you know that every single product that is sold on there is locally made and is of a high quality nature. We also roll out outside of this COVID-19 pandemic space. We normally would go out into malls and host activations there, educate consumers on the importance of buying local. We do it at festivals, we do it at universities, we do it at sporting events, we would roll out online competitions, we would find consumer expos where our members can go and showcase their products. We would work with the unions to mobilize labor. Organized labor has all of these unions and affiliates that have access to consumers who can be food soldiers that can help us educate consumers on the importance of buying local. At different times, we identify industries and sectors that we support. We've done campaigns to support the clothing, textile, footwear, and leather industry. We have done the same for the poultry industry. For the hospitality industry, we partnered with the One Meal Many Things, which Stuart will talk about, and the intention there was to demonstrate that value chain that I unpacked earlier on, say buy one meal, but there are many industries that benefit as a result of that decision that you're making to go out, support an eatery, whether you're buying it as a sit-down option or you're taking it away. There are industries that benefit across that whole value chain. The multiply effects cuts across many industries. And so at different times of the year, we will find times where consumers spend a lot of money, more money than they would ordinarily. And during those times, we try and ensure that we get them to choose locally made products, and we intensify our campaigns. And this happens during the festive season. We do it when schools are about to open with a back to school campaign. During Black Friday, we also ensure that through our online store, there are specials and discounts that are offered to consumers for them to utilize that money that they would have saved up for Black Friday on locally made products. We also have rolled out a campaign called Game Time. We rolled this out during the height of the lockdown when the economy started opening up. We then introduced this campaign, and basically it was to say to South Africans, as the economy opens up, as you go back to work, as you start sourcing raw materials for your business, as you start sourcing that which you require on a day-to-day basis, help us turn the economy around by buying local. If you think of what has happened over the last week or so, with the unrest that we saw, especially in KZN and Gauteng, there is a need to ensure that we start rebuilding. So part of that rebuilding process is what we're advocating for with this Game Time campaign. How do we ensure that as we rebuild, the impact is long-term, that we put in place measures that will benefit the economy over a longer period, that is not just short-term rebuilding where we rush to buy items from outside of South Africa to rebuild our businesses, because then it does nothing in terms of the long-term sustainability of our economy. Let's find suppliers locally that we can buy from as we rebuild our businesses so that those jobs in those entities and in those industries can also be sustained, and that the long-term benefits and gains accrue to the South African economy. So let me give you a sense of what the Game Time campaign calls for, and then we can then wrap up.
The second half is about to begin. We need to change the scoreboard. It's time for all of us to pause and rethink the game plan in order to save the future. I call on all of us to be game changers, because greatness isn't reserved only for some people. By buying local, we're choosing to create jobs and sustain the ones we have. Time and time again, South Africans have taken destiny into their own hands, creating products that the rest of the world wanted to buy. See, the world remembers about us, what we sometimes forget. But it's time for change. Let's all buy local. It's game time. Zanzi.
Local is lekker.
Your everyday decisions shape our future.
And that's basically who we are. One of the things that we want to put out there, I mean, this is an industry that contributed in the past 6 billion rands a month. I said trillion, apologies, 6 billion rands a month in the past. Numbers confused me this morning. I think it's this weather. But for an industry that used to contribute 6 billion rands a month in the past, how do we get those eateries and establishments back to a path where they can again contribute and generate that kind of revenue going forward? My colleagues are quite creative. Our chief marketing officer has come up with this concept. And so I'm just a conduit to relate, to say, you know, the roadhouse model is what we all know of. Is that not something that the industry should look at? We're just throwing it out there. For those of you who run industries, who own establishments, who are trying to find ways to stay in business during this time, especially with the COVID-19 restrictions, that's something that, as we call on South Africans to continue supporting you, we think you can also introduce, you know, outside of the drive-through model where you pick up and go. Maybe the roadhouse model will work. For those of you who have the space to do it, who have the resources to can introduce this, we think that's something that can be looked at. What we will do as Proudly South African is to say to South Africans to continue to choose to buy from you, to support your establishments, because there are jobs across all your establishments, but also within those that you buy from. And our appeal to you is that choose to buy local as well as restaurants, because the contribution that you will make to the growth of this economy will be felt for a long time to come. not just only by those who work for your eateries and establishments, but by their families, because we know that in this country, one job supports 5-6 other people, or the income derived from that one job opportunity supports many other people. If you want to get hold of us, proudlysa.co.za on our website, you can take up membership. You can send us an email, info@proudlysa.co.za, and that is who we are. Thank you very much, Program Director. I hope I did justice to your Roadhouse model. Thank you very much.
By all means, you got the brief, CEO. Thank you so much for setting the tone and really giving a holistic background into the work that we do. And the Roadhouse, discussion, the people who are in the industry may think that, and perhaps we are a little ambitious because, we're not in their shoes, so to speak. So it's also a way of trying to to demonstrate empathy in this whole discussion. And like I mentioned earlier on, as an ex-restaurant owner, this was also informed by the fact that now that the restaurants are closed for a dining experience, you can only take away. Order and take, and get your food by way of delivery, or, and take away and all of that. But meaning, you don't need the waiters during this level 4 period. And I'm thinking, and I'm going to pick on one, restaurant business deliberately because they are a member of the campaign. One that I can think of now is, excuse me, Buns Out. Owned by entrepreneur Maps Maponyane. He has a business in Linden, and given the nature of where his business is allocated and outside of the restaurant, there's very busy street in Linden where obviously people park their cars. So this type of thought process accommodates that type of positioning as well. Is that I would be very happy to jump into my car, take the kids out to Buns Out and order food from the car. That means, the business can decide that the waiters can take turns. Maybe, on a daily basis, you only bring in 3 waiters to take care of the Roadhouse temporary setup, where waiters go to cars and they take their order, they bring the food back to the car, and we sit in the car, as a consumer, you get to eat, but the waiter also feels like they are rendering a service. They come back and take the tray back to the restaurant. And at the end of this whole experience, not only do you pay for your food, but you there's an opportunity for you to obviously tip the waiters, and in that context, I know that even making a tip of about 300 rand per day as a waiter, that is something. That is something that in somebody else's life means a great deal. At least they've managed to come to work, and they did manage to make a bit of money under these very difficult circumstances. So thank you so much, Eustace. You definitely did do justice to it, to this discussion, or to that thought process rather. Attendees, just a quick reminder that you are more than welcome to send questions or comments on the chat box. They may be directed to any specific a speaker, or they may be generic, and we'll deal with them during the Q&A's session. But please don't be shy. This session is not about the speakers to speak amongst themselves. It's a discussion that is meant to assist one way or another, and we are hoping that as an attendee and a business owner or somebody who works in the restaurant space and in this industry, you will be motivated enough to make a contribution, to say something, to ask something, to make a suggestion, whatever the case may be. And also just to remind you that we are live streaming on Facebook, just to try and spread this narrative as wide as possible. And I'm hoping that there is media in attendance today, because it doesn't quite help for us to have this critical discussion and then it ends here. We must be spread this narrative and make sure that it's, as many people as possible hear what we're trying to say and how we're trying to intervene. Our next speaker is really a close friend of the campaign as well, Stuart. And I note that you have to jump off the call straight after this, Stuart. So, it really gives me a great pleasure to welcome you to this discussion today. We couldn't have had this without you, given the work that we did at least last year during lockdowns and all of that. And you are going to be touching on issues such as food security, food service supply chain, and the importance of supporting local and the effects that it has on value chain. Thank you so much. Great to see you again, Stuart. Please go ahead.
Yeah, you too. Happy. Thank you so much, and Eustace, for inviting me today. Can you see my screen? Being a bit technically challenged, I just want to check that you can see my screen.
You're doing very well. 10 out of 10. We can see you. Yeah.
Okay, that's good. These old guys are not so good at this technical stuff. Guys, look, thank you for inviting me to speak today. It feels like deja vu, meaning I feel like we've been here before. Where we find ourselves, the circumstances that we're in, the reality of that is quite similar to where we were a year ago. And in some ways, it feels like we haven't moved forward. And in other ways, it feels like we moved forward so far, now we've moved backwards, and now we're almost back at the same place. So let's just be clear where we are. We are at lockdown level 4 with some extra restrictions. And that's due to last until this weekend, I think, when the next review would take place, and hopefully there may be some changes going forward. We've also had the reality of some really difficult days in parts of the country over the last week, and at the end of this presentation I'll make some comments, pressures and worries that has caused, and the things that you do or don't need to worry about because of that situation. But just quickly back to who I am and who we are as a business. Look, I'm nobody special. I'm just somebody that's worked in the restaurant supply industry for quite a long time, and it is my heart and soul. And when lockdown first started, thoughts instantly went to the work that would need to be done to restore consumer confidence and to restore people through your doors. And as such, we as a business, which is RCL Foods, which is a big name that many of you may not have heard of, but it's Rainbow Chicken, it's Pyman's Pies, it's Salati Sugar. As Eustace explained, that whole sugar chain is something we're very part of. Supreme Flour, the list goes on. We're basically an ingredient supplier. And I specifically work for the Food Partners Division, which is the hospitality industry focused part of the business, supplying raw materials or raw ingredients to that business on a pretty large scale, and to food manufacturing. So that's where I come at it, and probably about 20 years experience in this food service supply and restaurant trade. But as one supplier, we got together with a lot of other leading suppliers that you can see listed on the screen, the big distributor Bidfood, McCain's, Tiger Brands, Unilever, and proudly South African to help do a couple of things. At the start, the industry needed to focus on safety and to get the safety support processes in place. As Eustace mentioned, the how to operate, the standard operating procedures. There was a lot of work done to help solidify that with the government up front to get restaurants open early. This feels like an age ago now. Then we switched our attention to trying to drive demand. because the industry has been damaged by COVID in terms of some people are scared to come out, okay? Some people weren't allowed to come out, and at different stages of lockdown, you're not allowed to sit down or you're not allowed to have alcohol. So that controls demand. But some people are also scared. Some people are staying away from crowded places because of the virus. And that is a reality. So for functional reasons and emotional reasons, consumer demand was down. And we developed the One Meal Many Thanks campaign specifically to try and work on building consumer demand. We did not focus as much as other organizations on political lobbying to try and get the rules and regulations changed. We remain non-political and try to just focus on the consumer demand, okay? So just in order to do that, you just mentioned some statistics. We developed a concept called the thank you, which is a queue of people, of all those people in the supply chain. And we put that out there so that restaurants could express gratitude to their customers. So there's extremes of fear, or people won't go to restaurants because they're scared, or they want to go to restaurants to have fun. And you can't focus on either of those extremes. We decided to help focus on gratitude in the middle, and we developed this queue concept. We developed materials that allowed restaurants to share that on their own social media and use it as their own advertising, which I think are likely to be available again shortly. But basically it was just this concept of saying thank you to your consumers for behaving and buying locally, dealing with your local restaurant. And I'll just show you, if I can, a video. This is going to come from one of the organizers, not me. So let me stop sharing. See, now it goes wrong. There we go. So somebody's going to just play the video for me. Now I can move on. Happy.
Technical.
Okay.
Can you please play the video, technical, behind the scenes? Please give us a minute, everybody. We're almost there.
When our restaurants started to feel the effects of lockdown, we needed to find a positive and helping voice in a time of turmoil. As South Africans, we know firsthand the power that comes from working together. And so, in a groundbreaking industry first, Bidfood and the food service divisions of McCain, RCL Foods, Tiger Brands, and Unilever formed a consortium and partnered with Proudly South African to create an initiative that would not only highlight the 1.8 million livelihoods at stake in the food service industry, but mobilize South Africans behind a cause that gives them a reason to eat out.
Hi there, Ruben Ruffel here, chef owner of Ruben's Restaurants. As you know, the COVID pandemic has really wreaked havoc all over the world, and so many people have been affected by it. None so more than our industry, the hospitality industry. We employ millions of people. It's really a people's business. And so many people are reliant on our businesses, service providers, suppliers, and even businesses feeding into those businesses.
One Meal Many Thanks was born from this unifying spirit and set out to spread the message that for every meal purchased, at least 28 families. That's an entire supply chain that benefits from just one meal. Along with significant PR investment and government lobbying to highlight the plight of the industry, our consortium supplemented the One Meal Many Thanks campaign with millions of rands of free stock that was distributed to outlets in need. We put safety first and worked with the Tourism Business Council of South Africa to develop the certified Travel Safe, Eat Safe app as a track and tracing tool, and circulated 2,000 COVID safety protocol posters. Financial, safety, and operational toolkits were made available online, and consumer promotions were run to increase foot traffic in restaurants.
This winning competition moment is brought to you by One Meal Many Thanks. Congratulations, Siobhan Muller. You have won a 1,000 Rand One Meal Many Thanks voucher to spend at any sit-down restaurants in South Africa.
To further spread our call to unite over food, an online community was built by asking Mzansi, where do you want to eat out? And the response was amazing. We are proud of the collective contribution we have made to our industry, to our customers, and to our fellow South Africans. We know the job is not done, and we are committed to working towards a brighter future, both individually and collectively.
Okay, thank you. I can go back to the presentation. Guys, this is not really about us. It's not to do with what we've achieved or tried to do. It's to do with the numbers here. So the group of companies that got together, we have skills and we have desire. We have desire to see the industry that we care about basically back on track, you know, and we tried to do that. So I'm just trying to switch. We tried to do that as best we could by sharing what we had, which was our skills. Okay, the facts there, the number of employees that was stated earlier, this number was researched to be 1.8 million people in that entire supply chain. So where he talked about the sugar plantations and all the rest of it, all of the raw materials, the potatoes, the chicken, the number of lives employed supplying just the restaurant trade was logged at 1.8 million, which is where the 28 lives that are touched with each meal you buy, a statistic came from. And the campaigns that we didn't necessarily reach the largest number of people in the world, but to get 180,000 online conversations about local restaurants going, and 58,000 entrants into a competition where you could only win 1,000 Rand is a very large number, and it has an impact. And then the social contact behind that definitely had an impact. Look, we will endeavor to do more going forward. And some of the things that are involved here at the moment are that we are developing another version of the One Meal Many Thanks campaign, which is again going to focus on getting consumers in your doors, okay? Celebrating the local restaurants that they support, working with Proudly South African, just basically keeping that message out there and getting people comfortable to go back to your outlets. The key before any of that can work is that you focus on safety. The research shows quite considerably that people will go back to a restaurant where they believe the behaviors are safe, where the people are wearing masks, where they're sanitizing, where they're adhering to the rules. A restaurant breaking the rules is not going down well with consumers, and they're choosing to steer clear. And so that's just a very important point to remember. I think hopefully as the lockdown levels change, obviously alcohol is linked to the fun side of going to a restaurant. However, the new normal, there are more people visiting restaurants than were before without alcohol, if that makes sense. However, obviously it's not perfect and it's not our full flow of consumers. So alcohol, we would love alcohol back. But even if alcohol is not back in the immediate time frame, which might only be 1 week, then more people are prepared to come than were in previous months. So there are still people there. You do need to focus on other routes to market, like the Roadhouse scenario, where you can support the waiters, not just the business owners, as well as delivery. We're in full support of all those kind of initiatives. So something will happen here. It isn't appropriate at the current stage of lockdown to be focusing too much on pull-through, but we will as things change. We're also working with young chefs in an environment where there's no competitions going on. There's nothing to encourage these chefs in their trade. We're running a Young Chef of the Year challenge this year with some pretty significant financial support behind the winners and the regional winners. We're running a campaign called Sikela, which is specifically designed to support BEE-owned businesses. And it's being led by two of our brands in the catering industry, Medellin and Marvello. But what that does is it provides financial support in the form of discounted food prices across their entire basket, and supporting 50 specific businesses at the moment with financial support and business advice. That is going to change and grow into capital investment as well. There is another fund which we're not directly working with at the moment, but we are looking to work with, which I wanted to mention to you. This is a spin-off of the Solidarity Fund. This is a spin-off of a 1 billion rand donation from the Rupert family at the start of COVID. This is a 100 million rand fund called the Sakuma Fund, that has been provided specifically to provide financial support to long-standing troubled restaurants. So there is 100 million rands worth of private funding that is there to help people in this extreme time. And we're looking to work with that fund to help spread the word about it. So better to ask forgiveness than permission. I haven't had permission to mention that to you today, but that fund is there for potentially helping you out at the moment, as is the TERS with the new regulations for your staff. Look, I think in terms of the past and the history, that's where we are, that's where we're going. We are here to help. I think you as a restaurant trade need to have faith that consumers are positively going to return and are looking to return to safe businesses. I think we need to be cognizant of what's happened in the last week or so. And just to give you a few words on that, obviously, if you're from KZN, you will have first-hand experience of this. Many people around the country obviously don't get exactly what it was like, but the infrastructure for the restaurant trade in KZN was severely damaged. It didn't matter whether we were on lockdown, there was no business going on for a whole week, and many businesses have been destroyed. Quite large numbers of QSR restaurants in particular have literally been destroyed and looted. And there's a difference between looted of your stock versus destroyed where your ovens or your freezers have been taken. So the industry in KZN has taken a knock, as has the retail industry. And I only mention the retail industry as a means to supply the restaurant trade. So many restaurateurs will buy their food from a distributor like Bidfood. Many of them will buy from a cash and carry outlet like Macro. And so obviously the effects on retail are an effect on your supply chain of you getting goods. Obviously everything was closed for a week. There are still approximately 10% of stores which will not open for at least another 2 months. So they were in KZN, this is. So physically damaged beyond the point of being able to reopen. Behind the stores, there was 2 or 3 major distribution centers that supply the food that you might buy to the stores or to the distributors that have been severely damaged or destroyed. Some of the smaller meat suppliers quite badly affected, chains like Boxer affected, and Bidfood themselves affected. Businesses like ours, we had an entire warehouse that was looted of chilled product. So that's things like, it's not really for the restaurant trade, but things like Viennas or Rama or Meadowland or Marvella. So a lot of these warehouses were just looted, but 1 or 2 of them were actually destroyed, which would mean that there will be longer term problems. However, all of the retailers involved, all of the manufacturers involved have worked tirelessly with government over the last 2 weeks and are miraculously providing different routes of supply. So there's no real need to worry about medium or long-term food supply issues. And I am speaking as an individual, not as a spokesperson on behalf of the entire food industry, but as an individual letting you know what I know going on behind the scenes. Things are getting back to normal in that the guys from Joburg are trucking things down to stores if their distribution center was destroyed. Okay, so they have compensated for the lack of distribution or the distribution damage, and you don't need to worry. There will, however, be a percentage of stores that will remain closed for a long time. The Bidfood warehouse, which is Bidfood and Digistics, which are both key distributors into your industry, were damaged in an area called Cornubia here, but both are due to be back up working by today or maybe tomorrow. So despite having lost their entire stock, suppliers have restocked them. Basic office damage has been fixed enough so that they can operate. So food service supply chain will be operating. Just so that everyone is aware of the risk here, although everybody or most of the big food manufacturers are local and they're buying local. Our sugar, for example, will come from local farms that we've given to local farmers. But there are items that you can't get enough of in the country, like flour, okay, wheat. And those raw materials are often imported and come into Durban port. The importance of that N3 route is absolutely critical to get raw materials like oil, vegetable oil, to the factories in Johannesburg so that the goods can come back down. It's not just about getting the goods coming back down. And so the crippling of that route did provide a problem with factories in Johannesburg, many of them being without raw materials or packaging for a whole week. So what that will cause is 1 or 2 lines you will have a short-term shortage of for the next couple of weeks. But there's nothing on the serious list that I'm aware of from any of the major suppliers. They'll just generally might be 1 or 2 lines. For example, like a Rama 500 brick, you can get the 500 brick, but you can't find the 250 brick. So there would be a couple of examples like that where stocks will have gone down to a very low level, and it will take companies a couple of weeks to come back up. But other than that, I think don't concern yourselves about it. And the real positive that's come out of it for Proudly South African is the way that local communities came together, the way that they came together to support and defend themselves, the way that people got to know each other in their communities. And that gives you as local restaurants an opportunity to get into a different relationship with your local audience. Lots of the restaurants here were cooking for people who were, on guard and things like that. Even the ones that opened on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday of the week of trouble, are held in a totally different level of esteem. How did you get raw materials to be able to cook? They cooked what they had in their freezers. People sold what they had in their freezers so that people could get food, because I promise you, in this region up till Saturday, the majority of people could not get food, and restaurants were providing it to them. So the real positive of the real negative is, A, it's over now. B, it's provided a much bigger community feeling, which we can direct, or you can direct towards yourselves, because I'm sure they're going to be keener to help you out than they ever were before. And I think just remember the reality. We're at level 4 lockdown. Safety is paramount, and we will go to a better level of lockdown, hopefully very soon, which will allow you to start trading as normal with alcohol. And watch this space. We'll try and help you out as much as we can. Happy? That's, I think, I don't know if I've covered everything you would want, but I think that's me done.
Thank you so much, Stuart. And just like we suspected when we reached out to you, your insights and the work that you're doing and what we've done together in the past is a great story to tell. I mean, as South Africans, we're going through so much. It's a lot. It really is a lot, and we have to find an element of hope and from somewhere. And hence these these efforts from the likes of you and your colleagues and all of us on this platform. And you're right, as South Africans, we've stood in solidarity before many times. And, following the unfortunate events of last week, we've seen South Africans stand in solidarity, saying no, and really cleaning up. And it's great to hear that even, in KZN, people, some of the restaurants were cooking, food that they had in their freezers to try and make a difference and, and help those that needed food the most. And that's the solidarity that we know, that's the Ubuntu that we've become accustomed to as South Africans. So thank you so much, Stuart, for the great work and for your contribution today. I know you have to step off the call, and I just thought, let me take this opportunity now to say we're truly grateful that you got up and showed up and really contributed immensely to this discussion. It's always a pleasure to chat.
Thank you. Thank you, Happy. I will try and stay as long as I can and come back for questions.
All right, thank you.
But your point there is so important. It's all about positivity now. I mean, a double negative has turned into a positive around community. So thank you for the time.
Thank you so much, Stuart. Bless you. Thank you. And now moving along. So, it is an era to fight in the industry. And to fight hard, to be able to stay afloat and to be able to, as a people, because after all is said and done, and we've come up with these great suggestions, we've had robust discussions. When we all go home, we are consumers, and we all need to provide. But so in light of the angle that I'm taking, I'm saying it really is a fight for it's a war. To stay afloat and to keep your business. It is not easy, but we must hope that we will come out of this at some point. I mean, it's not only a war, a COVID pandemic war that we're fighting. It's also the economy. And then the unfortunate events of last week. I mean, nothing could have prepared us for it. It took us as an economy so many steps back to where from where we were. But that's a discussion for another time. In fact, next week on Thursday, we're hosting a discussion around rebuilding. We're reprimanding nobody. We all know what happened. We were all here. We saw it on various platforms. It's really about how do we rebuild for everybody. So my view is that in this context of restaurants or business ownership or entrepreneurship, or no one opens up with a business with an intention to fail. You open up a business because you want to make it. You want to make money. You want a job for yourself, hence you've opened up a business. You want to generate revenue. It's about the bottom line, which is the pocket. It's about the jobs that you then create. It is also about the profit, like I said. And you contribute to the economy, most importantly. And that gives me, it leads me to introducing our next speaker, Wendy Alberts. Wendy, let me note that we are running slightly late, and for that, I do apologize. We'll try and catch up, but I won't mess with your allocated time. It's great to see you, Wendy. And lots of us see you on all platforms, on television, on radio, everywhere, the voice of the industry. And we are grateful that you said yes to this invitation. You're a force that the industry needs. And we look forward to hearing what you are going to share with us today. And please go ahead. Thanks, Wendy.
Good morning to everybody on the webinar, and thank you so much for the invite, and thank you for everyone's support over the last 15 months. What can I begin to say, that we're an industry built on passionate, beautiful people, regardless whether you're owning an establishment or whether you are working in an establishment. It takes a very, very beautiful, special kind of human being to engage in our industry and to commit themselves to the work they do on a daily basis. And I think the last 40 months have really showed us how dramatic the industry has changed, how it's left us in vulnerable positions. And with all of the hardship that we faced, I think it gives us a massive opportunity to look at rebuilding this beautiful industry that we've got. And I think one of the key components, which we always need to talk about, is that we don't only begin and end where restaurants are. The compounded effect on the whole value chain of the industry is paramount. And we begin with an extension of not only the beautiful staff that work in our restaurants, we've got the back of house, we've got waiters, barmen, baristas. And as we've accentuated, we've had to go and increase on delivery services. And then we look at people that work within the industry, our people clean the extractors, the cookie makers, the sweetie makers, the sauce makers, the bread bakers, etc., etc. So while somebody had made mention of 1.8 million livelihoods, I think that the direct jobs that we create is probably 5 times bigger by the livelihoods that we support. So when they shut the industry down, we do feel the hardship because we support so much of communities and so much extensions on the value chain of what we do. And that is why we've been fighting so hard to keep the industry open. It's been a treacherous time. Like you said, we're not only fighting the pandemic, we're fighting so many other factors which shouldn't really be taking effect in our industry. We should really be looking at ways to keep the economy open, ways to bring the least amount of economical impact onto every single one of our businesses, and finding solutions that help us to be innovative and to look at solutions and to work with government to relieve the pain, the unnecessary pain that's put on our businesses. A lot of these restaurants have been built, as you all know, over time, and it's built with passion and people's hard-earned money and work, and everything that is compounded in it goes into the effects of success. And when we look at the hospitality food chain, it doesn't only rest within restaurants. Within the restaurant sector, we have beautiful little food trucks and experiential food markets and quaint little places that go to market stores or pop-up stores, etc. We have food trucks, we have food bicycles, we have food vendors that sit on the side of the road. We have small coffee shops, restaurants, takeaways, small coffee shop takeaways. We have sit-down restaurants. Within that, we have various types of experiential restaurants. We have got the franchise chains that sit within the sector. And then obviously people that have been harder hit, pubs, bars, and the nightclubs, which has really had a difficult time. Included in all of these positions that people have also really suffered largely on are the entertainers that work so hard in our industry. People who come and they play their one-man bands, and they have their musicians and their regulars, the entertainers. A lot of the children's entertainment's been cut. You know, we see that the jungle gyms are open, but all that face painters and clowns and jungle gyms and everything that goes into the creation of what makes a restaurant so special has really been diminished. And all those livelihoods have been massively impacted, you know. So people think a restaurant is really just about serving food and making food. There's so many other components that come and bring the businesses to life that create these experiences that have been really diminished. So when we're fighting to keep a restaurant open, it is not simply about the waiters, the barman, the back of house, and the food preparation. It is music, it is lighting, it is a creation, it is turning the lights on, it is turning the magic, the chemistry, the combination of everything goes into who we so vehemently passionate are, and why we so love giving people the beautiful experiences and celebrations that they have within our businesses. So one can just see how impacted we've been, you know, not only from production, but also from entertainment and also from support and all the various other components that go into delivering the experience. So, you know, whilst we've had to remodel on every turn, it hasn't really given us an opportunity to have been completely innovative or creative, because our ability to bring sustainable turnover has not been there. So we sit in a very fractured place where we need turnover to create the jobs. We need turnover to create and mobilize the industry to be able to pay our bills. So whilst we fighting quite hard on the left-hand side with government to bring reprieve to the industry, we're also dealing with a whole different monster on that side, which is landlords, banks, insurance companies, our contracts, our cell phone contracts, our internet connections, and a whole host of other licensing fees that we pay, that the demand continues for us to be able to pay those expenses. And on the left-hand side, we do need the turnover to be able to create the experiences within our restaurants, which the two are just not working hand in hand. And that's why we're sitting in such a complex place. And we constantly can't really be as completely innovative as what I think we potentially could be. One, because our emotional spaces have been so massively impacted. And restaurateurs by nature are entrepreneurial spirits. They're very creative, they're very flexible, and they're quite competitive amongst themselves to be able to give these platforms for the consumer to come and enjoy time within our beautiful establishments across the board. And I think that's why when I've explained how vast the industry is, it really gives you an idea of how the consumer fits into the different places depending on where they are in their lifestyle, where they are in their time in their life to support which degree of restaurants. So it's not a one fit for all. It's not simply, you know, restaurants are, we make food and we put on the table. The alcohol, as you well know, has massively damaged our business. And it is also such a creative component, which creates so many beautiful jobs, you know, from the flairers, the cocktail makers, sommeliers, wine experiences, and then obviously your non-alcoholic drinks as well, which is a massive part of our restaurants for people who don't consume alcohol. So there are these components provide many degrees of different jobs if we just separate beverage and we separate food. And now we've gone through the stage of remodeling, which hasn't been as effective, which I think government has wanted us to be, or as innovative as what we could be, because we've been restricted on the amount of numbers that we could have in our restaurants, but with a heightened 100% demand on having to pay the expenses out on the back end. So, you know, when we look at the last 50 months of lockdown, we've gone simply from being delivery services, which gave a huge opportunity to be able to create a lot of jobs, because the large delivery guys are very, very expensive and they take a large portion of the profitability, which wasn't working for a lot of restaurants. So we saw a massive amount of deliveries being extended on, the type of deliveries, experiential deliveries, taking products to home, taking the experience to home, taking tables and chairs to home, taking beautiful chefs and well-renowned world-class chefs to go and cook in people's homes. So that became a huge, massive opportunity in the creation of new jobs in our sector. Obviously, packaging has been paramount, and I think there still lends itself to a huge potential for greater packaging and for be able to put the packaging together. Food trucks and food delivery trucks and the experiential parts of that in the creation of putting together fridges, frozen foods, products, and actually taking that into communities and taking it into homes so people can actually buy product from these experiential food trucks, if you want to call it, or delivery vehicles, or frozen products within these food trucks. We've looked at things like the Roadhouse concept, which has worked in some sites, been very innovative, and I think the extension of the long tables which they slip through the windows has been a great insight for a lot of innovation. The way we do delivery, the way we're packaging with food costs, menu innovation, everything that's moved onto the cell phone apps, deliveries. So whilst we have certainly been impacted, there has been a massive amount of innovation in terms of technology, deliveries, and those components that I've spoken about. I think that in the next sort of 18 months, once we sort of get some type of stability, we'll see a huge remodeling. But the truth is, the consumer still wants what they want. So as deeply and aggressively as what we want to try and remodel it, the consumer reports that we received, in contrary to the last speaker, has been that the consumer confidence in restaurants is actually very high. The consumer loves eating out in our establishments. A lot of restaurants have extended themselves on outdoor space and moving their restaurants out. A lot of landlords have been accommodating to this to allow us to step into car parks and to step into different spaces. And I think, one of the beautiful things what I love about South Africa is not only the restaurants and beautiful people, but South Africans in totality love the restaurant industry. We are definitely South Africa's most loved industry. And when I chat to people about what is it about loving the South African business, it is the heartbeat of South Africa. It is all the cultural meeting place where we get together, whether it's a rugby match and we're celebrating the vuvuzelas and flying our flags and wearing our Springbok shirts, or we're coming for a quiet romantic dinner, or our first date, or our everyday coffee shop at our favorite place where there's a beautiful person with their favorite smile, or anniversaries or birthdays. And I know as I'm unpacking these magical moments that we create, everybody's sitting around this, and you can associate why restaurants are such an integral part about the core value system in South Africa and the cultural investment that we've made. And that is why we're so passionate not about losing the industry, because it is a place where South Africa connects at all times. And we see it every single time. The minute the lockdown is lifted, people swiftly come back into our restaurants. They feel safe, they enjoy the experience, they love the core product of the combination of food and alcohol, and most importantly, the beautiful people who serve them. We don't want self-service, we don't want robots, we don't want to do buffet style. We want the integration of the tactile component of all our 5 senses that go into an integrated experience, eating and dining in a beautiful restaurant. So we look at all of these things and we ask, why are we struggling so much? Because the impact of cutting the livelihoods and cutting the ability for us to trade our businesses has a negative effect on so many other components within the hospitality sector. And if I just touch lightly on the point of tourism, people travel from restaurant to restaurant to gain the experiences and the iconic landscape all around South Africa. So when we restrict travel and the inability to travel, it means restaurants are also impacted, and everybody else within the hospitality and the experiences that they take, whether it's going away for a weekend or going to a game farm or going to the Kruger Park or going down to Cape Town or to KZN, or to enjoying all the beautiful offerings that are in place in all these tourist destinations. You cannot survive without the component of food. More often people always remember their favorite place that they've eaten at more than the bed that they've slept in. But the experiential components of all of that, of going to a shark or going to the waterfront in Cape Town, are key components to driving tourism. And what's happened now is that we've lost the impact of international tourism. And South Africa was a beautiful destination for people to come to. They loved the landscape of South Africa, probably one of the prettiest countries in the world, and the most diverse, with the most amount of offering, mountains, seas, food, color experiences, art, culture, the diversity of what we've got to offer. And it really is a #1 destination for people to travel. But we've had some challenges, obviously, in economic department, political department, etc., the cross through of that, which has restricted a lot of travel into it. And now we really have opportunities to open up the domestic tourism for people who haven't really traveled in South Africa to invest their money back into our country, which lends itself to so many more opportunities to create jobs, tour guides, etc., which again gives the benefit to us in the restaurant industry by people diverting the experiences that people are having within that tourism sector to having to eat. And as you well know, people love to eat at every point and every occasion, whether it's an ice cream, a milkshake, an ice cold beer, a bottle of wine down in the winelands, picnics, restaurants, nighttime, or any kind of trade. So, we got to try and just stick together in unity. And I believe that, we've seen, especially this last week, how beautifully South Africans connect. We are about connection. Restaurants are that space of connection that people get together. And it is always, and I can assure you, if we open again on Sunday or the week after, people will flood back to our restaurants because it's a place that they find themselves and they find the normality of the chaos that's currently happening in life. And I'm very excited to be part of this industry. I'm very excited to be the voice of the industry, and I'm very excited for the transformation that we're currently going through. And I know whilst it's difficult times for everybody, there's so many beautiful moments to be born from the chaotic situations that we've been in. And, Maria Ramos many years ago said to me, Wendy, in moments of crisis, opportunities arrive. We just have to look for it. And we can't stay stuck in the back door. We've got to open new doors. We've got to get out into the sunshine, look at ways that we can start living with COVID, look at ways we can create jobs. And the hospitality, tourism, restaurant sector is the biggest platform for job creation. And we'll continue to look at ways that we can bring people back to work, look at new jobs, new ideas, and new ways of getting people invested into being able to be part of this magnificent, exciting, and wonderful world that we call restauranteering in South Africa. And I hope that as I conclude what I have to say, anybody who would like to extend and have discussions furthermore to this is welcome to get hold of me on my cell phone at any time. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Wendy. I'm terribly sorry I was quiet for a bit. I was technologically challenged. The system kicked me out just as you were concluding. But I'm glad I found a way to sort it out. Thank you so much, Wendy. So much to take from your presentation. And it's simple. You didn't complicate the discussion. It's really, so simple. What you were. What I mean is what you were sharing with us, there's no confusion. Is it simple to implement and do some of those things? Maybe and maybe not. I can imagine that we all have different views about this. But what I do know is that, South Africans are very, positive, many positive people. They stand in solidarity. We've come together before. We've made things work in the past. And it may take us some time, but we'll be okay. Again, we'll be okay. We just want to, congratulate you on the work that you do. It's great to keep hearing your voice on behalf of the industry. Keep fighting. I did say when I introduced you that this is a war. Not only fighting the pandemic, we're fighting all sorts of other things. It's so much. It really is so much. Do we have the energy to do it? You said that the industry could be a lot more creative than they are, but there's other factors. You know, do you have the energy? Have you got the strength, the will to carry on and keep fighting for your business? We're human after all. At some point we do give up, but it's okay to reset, to pause, to rethink, and to rebuild, because nobody said any aspect of our lives was going to be easy, isn't it? So, you know, it's a reality that we face as a people, as the restaurant business, as any business, for that matter. Thank you so much, Wendy. There was a lovely comment. I'm trying to keep up with the comments and questions. There is something for you on the chat box, but we'll quickly deal with it when we come back now with the Q's and A's, if that's okay with you. Okay, thank you so much, Wendy. Much appreciated. Thank you. We carry on with the program, and we do have, like I said to Wendy now, quite a few comments, which are great, but I would like us to rather go through the next presentations, and then we take the questions and comments collectively and try and deal with that. And next on the program for this morning is sorry that you know, the system kicking me out you know, messed with my thought process while I was trying to get back on. But we now are going to hear from Terence Leluma, who is the CEO of Makamisa Foods, a member of the campaign who has walked this journey with us as Proudly South African. In fact, Terence has a great story to tell about how his association and affiliation with Proudly South African has helped him grow his business, though today's obviously focus is not that. He will be focusing on how he's had to pivot his business, if anything, during lockdowns and during this difficult period. He's going to talk about the importance of supporting local food industry, you know, in an effort to keep jobs in the food industry in particular. Terence, great to see you. You're most welcome to start your presentation, please. Thanks.
Good morning, colleagues and the audience. I hope my screen is showing.
Yes, it is, Terence. We can see clearly.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you for the opportunity. It's great to be here this morning. And I would like to thank the host, the Proudly SA, and the audience. So this morning, I would like to share with you our story as Makamisa Foods, and I'll also touch on the value chain and how level 4, level 3, and level 4 of the national lockdown has impacted on our business, and also towards the end of my presentation, I'll talk about the impact also that we experienced through this unrest. So yeah, we are Makamisa Foods, the company which was established by myself and my wife, Phumzile Nkomoli Duma. And we are a level 1 BE company with 26% shareholding in women, and 60% of management remains as youth. Hani, kitun telele charge.
All right, Terence seems to have a battery problem, and I see he's reaching out for his charger. So please bear with us, colleagues. And I think there we go. His battery died on him, and he will try to reconnect. May I request, inquire if, because we may have to, in the interest of time, I may have to I may have to ask Simele Shange to step in. Are you here, Simele?
Yes, I am.
Are you happy to step in? If would you?
Yeah, sure, I can.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you so much. I know I'm throwing you under the bus, but I'm trying to save a bit of time.
No, it's fine. I
Thank you.
can do that. I'm just
Thank
going to
you
share
so
my
much.
screen as well.
Okay, fantastic.
Can you see it?
Yes, great. We can see it. Yeah.
Okay, great. Let me just get started here. So we are from Josie Cloud Kitchens. My name is Simele Shange from Josie Cloud Kitchens. We're a company based out in Johannesburg, in Bryanston, and we were founded in March 2020 and opened our first facility in March 2021. We have 10 kitchens in our facility operated by 10 different operators. So essentially, we found a retail space and we divided that space into 10 different kitchens where operators can run virtual brands. Virtual brands are basically brands that only exist on your third-party operator. So like Uber Eats, Mr. D, you won't actually find them physically, you'll just find them virtually on your third-party operators. Because of the nature of our business, you'll find that restaurants are able to have more than one brand running. So what we have in our space is over 15 restaurants running out of our facility, over 50 people working at the facility as well. So we have an average of about 5 people per restaurant, and including another 6 or 7 runners that we hire. We have the whole place is powered by a multi-restaurant ordering app. So essentially for customers, they can come in and order from all our different restaurants. We've gained quite a lot of traction over the first few months that we've operated. In the first couple of months, we had 5 out of the 10 kitchens operating, and we had about 5,000 orders. We've pushed it up to 7 kitchens now, and we're doing about 7,500 orders a month. And in the next couple of weeks, we're going to get all 10 kitchens operating, and we're hoping to reach 8,000 to 10,000 orders per month out of the facility. So what prompted us to come into this space, we saw that South African food delivery was really growing. In fact, in 2019, it was just under 10 billion rand, or $1 billion. And this year, it's projecting to be over $1 billion just on online food delivery in South Africa. So we figured, is there a way that we can get into this space and help restaurants and food entrepreneurs who wanna pivot into a more restaurant setup and take advantage of third-party delivery, and how best to do that? So then the biggest barriers that we saw when we looked into this space is the barriers to enter the restaurant industry. We found that there's a significant upfront capital required to open a restaurant. Like in South Africa, you're looking minimum 500 to 1 million rand to open a restaurant. You have the high operating costs. So you need to have waiters, you have high rentals that you need to pay, you have rate and taxes, and it's very difficult to get into these high premium locations, deposits, waiters, rent, all those with barriers that we found. And also traditional restaurants, the way they're geared at the moment, they're not geared for online food delivery. They're geared for sit down and for serving people inside their restaurant. So they're not geared to deliver food because it's a totally different game. Your food has to be set up differently, packaging, and the way that your food is your menu set up strategically is different from what you would find in a traditional restaurant. So ghost kitchens allow for you to gear yourself towards online delivery. And then we obviously found that because third-party delivery apps are so expensive, so in the sense that it's very difficult, like Uber Eats can go up to 30% for restaurants. So if you're going to have to run a traditional restaurant and have to service third-party operators, it gets very, very difficult for restaurants to be able to do that. So those are the 4 main barriers that we found. So what our solution was to build this ghost kitchen facility and allow people to get into this and run their virtual brands at a much lower cost than what you'd have if you're just going to open a full-on restaurant. So what we provide for restaurants is that there's no upfront capex really. All you do is come in with your ingredients, with your smaller equipment and staff, and you start operating. Our kitchens are in a premium location. We right off the heart of Bryanston, off William Nicol. We give you all the major kitchen equipment that you'd require. So your refrigeration, your grills, your stoves, your ovens, your fryers, all those sort of things that we give you. All your utilities are prepaid, so there's no surprise cost. You pay for what you use. And we do all the setup, so which can also be quite difficult. We do all your municipal setup, so your certificate of acceptability, your business license, your fire license, onboarding onto Uber Eats and Mr. D. From our side, we handle that. So all you need to, we've tried to create a scenario where you literally just need to come in and start cooking, and that's it. For the consumer, what we're trying to create is more variety. So you'll find that a lot of, like I said earlier, a lot of restaurants struggle to pivot towards online delivery because that's just not what they're geared to do. So what this allows is that we create brands, increase variety for the consumer, and obviously a better experience for them at home with delivery. That we've done our kitchen. Our kitchen is not a basic ghost kitchen where most ghost kitchens are hidden away. Ours is in a shopping complex. So we allow for the omni-channel revenue channel. So we allow it in at our ghost kitchen facility. We allow pickup and obviously third-party delivery. So that allows for all those sort of channels for our kitchens to take advantage of. Our business model is that we have one massive retail space divided into 10 kitchens. Each kitchen is run by an individual operator. So you literally have individuals running specific brands. So it's not just one massive kitchen run by one person. It's actually different people giving a different touch, different cuisines, and different feel to each restaurant. Some restaurants have one brand. Some have up to 4 brands in one kitchen, because that's the beauty of ghost kitchens, that you can't do more than one brand in one space. So you'll find that you'll be able to do 3 or 4 brands out of one kitchen, which is very hard to do in a traditional restaurant. But with ghost kitchens, you're able to do that. We have different rental options where you can do a flat rent, or you can do 10% of your turnover, depending on which way you want to do it. And then obviously the multi-restaurant ordering system that allows customers to mix and match from all our restaurants. So essentially for a customer, you can come in and order from 3 or 4 different restaurants all in one cart and check out as well. And then because of that facility that we have, it's meant that we wanted to create a space where we have different cuisines. So we have literally 15 restaurants with 15 different types of cuisines, so that for the consumer, it's a much better experience. This is what our kitchens basically look like. So you'll find that the equipment that we provide is set out here will give you extraction, metered gas, metered electricity, grills, fryers, working tables, under-counter fridges. Will onboard you in all the third-party platforms. Will provide all the COA applications, all the municipal applications. We do that for you. And we're creating, like I said earlier, we're creating an environment where you just bring in your small equipment, staff, and ingredients, and you're ready to open up a restaurant. These are our restaurants that are currently operating now. We've got 8 out of the 10 kitchens are currently operating. This is the pickup area that we have. So this is the front where customers come in and order and can mix and match from all our different restaurants. These are all our brands that we have in the facility right now. All of them local brands, new entrepreneurs who want to come into the space but have found it very difficult in terms of building a full brand and a full out restaurant. So these are young, up and coming restaurateurs who come in and do these brands. And how we help restaurants pivot, one of the things that we can do is essentially give a restaurant a brand new location without having to do the whole brick and mortar restaurant. So for example, if in a brick and mortar restaurant, you'll find that it's about more or less R1 million to actually start a new restaurant. With us, 100 location. There's a significant management time spent on the front of house dealing with drivers and customers for traditional restaurants. With the ghost kitchen, we handle the drivers from our runners, So everything that you need to do is basically concentrate on creating food and packaging it correctly for delivery, and then our runners handle everything else. We can get you up and running in less than 4 weeks. To build out a brick and mortar restaurant can take months. The menus, where if you've got a brick and mortar restaurant, your menu basically has to stay a standard kind of menu, where with ghost kitchens, because you exist virtually, you can chop and change your menus quicker, and you can essentially start a whole new brand within the same space without having to build out anything new. And then obviously the data collection is different for ghost kitchens, where data is very important for us. We need to know where our customers come from, who our customers are, and what our customers need. So it's a very tech-driven, data-driven type of operation. We've created quite a lot of jobs in our operation. We've got about 70 sustainable direct and indirect jobs created in our operational phase, and over 100 jobs created in our construction phase. We've created a lot of value to society. We feel like we're doing a big part in getting restaurants up and running again. We're creating an opportunity for restaurants to come into the space, do more than what they're able to do before, especially with COVID. We allow them to sustain themselves during a difficult time where there isn't much sit down, people are not going out as much as they used to. This allows for restaurants to be able to come in and basically support themselves without having to do the whole upfront cost thing. Yeah, so that's basically us. That's Josie Cloud Kitchens in a nutshell.
Thank you so much, Simele, for such a great, comprehensive presentation, and also for stepping in. You know, where I had to throw you under the bus to say, please go ahead and do your presentation. It is truly appreciated. What I do want to ask though, I mean, we commend you for the efforts that you're making in the industry to make a difference. You know, and for grabbing and for identifying an opportunity and grabbing it. I mean, ghost kitchens. It takes a creative mind and entrepreneurship mind to kind of like identify these type of opportunities. I do have a question for you though. Is this affordable for the service, this comprehensive service? Is it affordable for entrepreneurs?
Yeah, so I think that's what we wanted to do. We wanted to make sure that it is affordable and is an easier way for guys to basically enter into a market that was otherwise very closed off, in the sense that because the costs are so high, the paperwork is so high, finding space is so difficult. This is such an easier way for people to enter into the space, and a much cheaper way to enter the space. And we try to gear ourselves in such a way that it is as easy as possible for people who have never been into the restaurant industry to enter the restaurant industry and own part of the restaurant industry.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Fantastic. And I did have a question about how many people you employ, but towards the end of your presentation, you did say 70 and about 100 in the construction space of the business, which is amazing. I mean, those are more than 100 households, and that's how we look at it. That is the difference that you are making. And 10 out of 10, honestly, we respect your hustle. You reached out to Proudly, and that's important to share as an entrepreneur, that you reached out to Proudly South African. And when you saw our post on social media, talking about this session that we were going to host for the industry, you reached out to us and you said, I think I can also, add a credible voice to this discussion. That's the spirit of entrepreneurship. You've got to be out there. You've got to pay yourself, not in monetary terms, but pay yourself by looking out for opportunities for yourself. Today, you've now gotten an opportunity to, to create awareness about the business that you do to the audience that is here and all the other companies that are here with us today. I do have one challenge though. that I want to throw at you, back at you, is that now the only right thing that is left for you to do is to join the Buy Local movement as a member. And all of those great products that we saw, all of those local products that you work with, that we saw in your presentation, join the Buy Local movement so we can also step in and assist everybody. So we will find you. You found us. If you disappear from today, we will find you to bring you back home. Thank you so much.
Looking forward to it.
Okay, fantastic.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. I do have a comment from you, from the audience, but after we hear from Terence, we will come back to that. Thank you.
Thank you.
All righty, Terence, we see your back. Who's sabotaging you? Who's sabotaging you and switching off your computer, and then your battery dies, and then. But you know, we had to continue with the program, but we you know, are happy that you're back on screen. So please go ahead with your presentation.
Is it showing?
Yes, it's showing. We can hear you.
Wonderful. Yeah, let me go quickly. Yes, I was touching on the overall you know, presentation of my points that I'm going to touch for this presentation. Yes, Makamisa was founded by myself, Terence Leduma, and Pumzile Nkomo, and we're joined by other two members as part of the shareholding and the directorship, Mr. Libeko Marabe and Mr. Tibato Sodi. So our vision when we started this business, we looked at the space that condiments actually occupy in the overall food value chain. And we said there's nothing that really represents the African heritage and what we typically do in the townships, in the rural areas. And we said, we're going to develop a brand that is reminiscent with the African or indigenous way of life. There's things that Abokoko in the villages normally do or prepare as herbs to actually prepare remedies for children and communities to actually curb diseases and stuff like that. So our products are mainly focused on vegetables, and the food value chain, as you may be aware, is quite broad, it's quite huge, and we play a very integral part of this. So I'll move to the next slide. Yeah, so our core product is our Makamisa relish, which actually is broken into 4 different SKUs. You've got your mild relish, and we decided to name it Nyana because it's actually spicy but quite mild, and it's tolerable for people that are not into spicy food. We have got our Nga as well, which is quite balanced. It's a medium range SKU. We've got our Jer, which is the hot line. So this brand, as you see it, is actually listed with OBC, and OBC is a proudly South African brand. And I'm sure you are happy that I'm mentioning one of your members here. Yeah, so we are listed with OBC Group nationally, and we are also fortunate to be part of to have joined the Pick and Pay family. So we're going to be doing about 47, if not 49 stores from the end of August. And in September, somewhere there, we're going to be joining the ShopRite Checkers group on their shelves. So this is the live view of this relish line or relish range rather, and it's quite tasty, quite flavorful, and those who have interacted with this specific product, they'll tell you that it lasts for about 3 to 4 days in a household made up of maybe a maximum of 4 individuals. So this is our plant. This is how it looks like, and it's a fairly new equipment that we actually purchased locally, we are proud to say the content here in our infrastructure is actually above 90%, and we use local labor contractors to actually set up. We're funded by the IDC and the DTI Black Industrial Scheme to actually set up. Okay, so our range, our product range, you've got core manufacturing capabilities, as you can see on the screen, mayonnaise capabilities, basting, salad dressings, marinades, and sauces. We also have white labeling capabilities. We are able to develop a product in collaboration with our partners that supply us with key ingredients to actually put together a product that is actually a bespoke product for the restaurant network. At the moment, we have got about 3 main clients in the restaurant value chain that form part of our client base. One of those, I'm sure they're gonna allow me to mention, their name is Impact Group, a highly empowered, empowered company. I think they're sitting at level 1. So we are one of their suppliers doing things with them there. We also listed with Beat Foods, and it was quite sad to see in the news that some of their infrastructure down in Durban has been destroyed, and this actually affect our business as well. Those looters, they don't know that this value chain, they're actually diverse, and it could be better. Some of us are actually involved in these value chains, and then when things are not really moving, the trucks are not delivering, so we also get impacted as well. So I decided to put up this Stats SA slide to actually present the economic outlook of the country as it is today. Mining has actually put us on the positive side, but if you eliminate mining, you'll still notice that the trade balance is actually still negative if you eliminate mining. And agriculture specifically was one of the shining stars just in the first quarter of the national lockdown around March, April last year. But you see, recently things have started to look a little bit bad, and this needs some work to be done. And I'll challenge my colleagues in the industry, all of them being small, medium, and large, to say what is it that you're going to do to innovate further to make sure that agriculture remains an integral part of our trade force, because it is the very same agriculture that employs a number of communities across the country. So as you can see, we are actually -2 year on year. In fact, not year on year, but in the previous quarter, the agricultural sector actually dropped by -3.2%, which is a negative outlook, and this could be better. Looking at the overall size of the agro-processing economy, you can see this actually excludes the BEV sector. So you can see we've got about a figure of over 317 billion, and a bulk of that is made up of livestock. You've got horticulture as well, and we fall in that category. And this actually says to me, it's a picture that actually should inform even our government to say they have to put their money where their mouth is, because the very same agriculture contributes a massive contribution in our economy. And looking at, according to Euromonitor, when you look at the entire FMCG environment, sources contribute about 11.8 billion rand, and above 81% of this go through the retail channel. And that says, especially during this lockdown where restaurants have been highly impacted, the final consumer actually gets to access this product that are locally manufactured through the retail channel. And this could actually change, the outlook could actually change if the national lockdown was not actually implemented. We didn't have this COVID-19. However, it is what it is. We have to go with what is presented to us as nature, and try to come up with solutions and innovate further to make sure that we still remain relevant, and our restaurants, our manufacturing facilities are actually operational to the level that we want. And if I may move to the next slide, looking at the export capabilities that we have, you can see that prepared vegetables contribute a whopping figure of 16%, and this could be better. And I'll challenge again from the primary level, the farmers to say, what is it that we can do before we even export our food products? What is it that we can do to ensure that whatever produce that moves through different channels and different value chains, talking about food, of course, what is it that we can do to ensure that we create minimum wastage? We save as much food as possible and take that to the poor. That's something I think as the industry, we need to innovate around, to say, what is it that we can do collectively to make sure that food wastage, and I know Consumer Goods Council of South Africa has got a program that actually looks into this together with other partners in the industry. But I think these conversations, they need to involve all the role players in our society, particularly the poor. The poor need to be also involved in these conversations, because I think sometimes we develop solutions that we don't even know what other sectors of our society actually need. So if we could give them the audience and then come up with solutions or products that can actually talk to their situations. So when you look at the employment part of this, the agro or the agri-economy actually employs this. Obviously, this data was extracted from 2019 figures, and this slide was taken from the one of the DTIC presentation. 16.5 million jobs, and out of the national population of 60 million, if you have got 16.5 million, this says a lot more needs to be done, especially by our government, to put more money. We need to be more intentional when it comes to agriculture and the food economy, because I think, like the previous speaker said, including Wendy, that South African food experience, not only for tourists, even for the locals, we enjoy our food. We prepare one of the best. We are one of the countries that prepare the best food in the world. I've traveled to, luckily through the DTI, doing this outward selling mission trade shows. I've traveled at different continents, and then I get this positive feedback about our food as a country. And why are we not building capacities and strengths around food export? Because the world is waiting for South African food. So I think in the future, Makamisa and the other players in the industry will be in a position to actually export South African food stories. Okay, so towards closing, I would like to talk about this team, the Makamisa team. We are one of those problem solvers when you talk about the question of youth employment. And I believe and think that and hope that other players, other partners that we have out there, being large business, because we've got partners that are obviously of a large scale in terms of business size. We can do better in terms of employing young people from previously disenfranchised communities such as Tembisa. Our factory is based in Edenvale, Semenza Edenvale, and the majority of our employees hail from the townships of Alexander and Tembisa. And this is the big question that the country has to actually answer: youth employment, because you're looking at a figure of 63% around there of youth unemployment. And the Makamisa is one of those SMMEs that actually addressing this issue of youth unemployment directly. The average age of our staff is about 29. And you can see even on this, according to this slide, that most of these faces are young, and we've got women dominating the numbers, which is quite positive, not only for Makamisa, but for the country. And the numbers in terms of employment, you're looking at around, you've got about 26 staff members now. We should be recruiting in the next few weeks, because we're expanding into the retail network. And then in conclusion, I would like to say Nelson Mandela, one of our former presidents in the democratic dispensation, once said, as long as poverty, injustice, and cross inequality persist in our world, none of us can truly rest. And it is upon us as entrepreneurs, I think, together with our business partners out there, to actually come up with solutions that will seek to address all the social challenges that we are facing, because inequalities is a reality in this country. And the haves, as Eustace mentioned, the haves continue to have more, and those who are poor continue to be even more poor. And this is honestly a situation that is unsustainable for business. If we don't empower those communities that we continue to serve in the township and other parts of our cities, other parts of our provinces and the country at large, if you don't empower those communities, we're creating a very unsustainable situation for business. And I believe, honestly, we could do better than that. Lastly, I would like to talk about the importance of engaging the partners in the food value chain during the time of COVID. We have been very successful in keeping our doors open by continuously engaging with our employees, the number one stakeholder, to say, hey, the situation is not favorable for us to be paying 100% salaries. So we had to cut salaries. And for management, I would actually give a figure that we had to go down by 50% just to keep our company or business afloat. Because without having taken those steps, I promise you by now, maybe wouldn't be in existence. And thanks to all the partners, our employees, for understanding. And I believe, based on the efforts that we've put as management, that the situation will be better, and the company will continue to grow. And there were threats at some point, happy I must say, that we nearly closed doors if we didn't really come up with these tough decisions to actually ensure that we keep our doors open. And thanks to the likes of the IDC, the DTI, our main funders, Famous Brands as one of our main partners, for actually your support, your unprecedented support, your everlasting support. We truly appreciate. If it wasn't through your contributions and your support, we wouldn't be here. Happy, I'd like to say thank you.
Thank you so much, Terence, and those closing remarks are really appreciated. And you know, you are a perfect example of what a small business or SME can benefit by merely associating itself with the buy local movement, which is us. When we met you years ago, you did not have the manufacturing plant that you've just shared with us. You did not have 26 staff members, 26 households that your business, Makamisa, today takes care of. You started your business in your father-in-law's kitchen. That's the part you never shared with the audience today. You've told us that story. You see, I never forget.
I was cautious of time, yeah, of course.
Years ago, you told me that you started your business in your father-in-law's kitchen, you and your wife, who was a girlfriend then. And look at
she's the wife, by the way.
She's the wife today. We had that because you actually say thank you to her for helping you with the charger. We all heard you say, honey, help me, give me the charger. We heard it.
Yes,
yeah, so,
yes.
So a business idea that started off in a kitchen, in a home, has now grown to be such a force, which is really wonderful. And I'm hoping that your story is inspirational to those who are still growing their businesses and they're thinking it's hard, it's this and it's that and it's that. And the reality that if you really you can't afford not to have the thought process of, okay, what am I going to do differently? How do I pivot my business? Because we don't know what other pandemic might hit us in this lifetime. None of us know. But if and when that happens, how do you become persistent and try to stay afloat over and over and over again? So you really are a good story to tell. But I also want to highlight that linkage. You are now a supplier of one of our member companies, OBC, which is largely a retailer, but very big in the poultry sector. And, so the linkage that obviously Proudly South African made between the two members is great. We've taken you to the Franchise Association of South Africa, a few years ago, where we wanted you to present your case to the industry and say, hey, I'm a local entrepreneur. I've got a great product to sell. Give me the opportunity. Those are the kind of things that we do as Proudly South African. And the DTIC, who we have a dotted line to, you benefited from their industrialist program. Hence, they supported you with making sure that you have a plant to work from. It's really just it's so much in the midst. It indicates to you that in the midst of tragedy and in the midst of uncertainty, there's always an opportunity to find good in it. And as South Africans, we've proved that over and over again. We've gone through too many things, but in fact, we're a nation with great sense of humor. It doesn't matter what we're going through, we always try and find the funny parts in it. Look what we did with the president when he lost his iPad. Look what we did, everybody, we just made, we had a moment to laugh. And because we are going through so much as a people, we need these kind of good stories like yours. We need to switch off and laugh at some point, and we need to rebuild. With that said, I'm going to please request that all our speakers switch their cameras on. There's quite a lot of comments and questions. It's not going to be possible to address each and every one of them in the interest of time. I do note, though, that there's people who have requested, for example, Wendy, somebody wants us to give them your ID number, your home address, your phone number, and all of that. And we said we'll think about it. But there's quite a few people who've asked for presentations from today. They've asked for, and we will, the events team that put this together is going to communicate with everybody that has attended, because we from a survey perspective, and then we will help you with those presentations and all of that. I just want to quickly say, and CEO, I did respond to this question on the online chat, but I'd like for you to add on to that. The question was, I'd like to know that is this campaign only related to Black business of buying local? My response to that was that no, this is a national campaign for everybody. being green, yellow, purple, everybody, because it's a campaign for the people, for South African businesses. We need friends as proudly South African. CEO, please make your
That's why my
comment.
scarf is not black. It's all the colors, Rainbow Nation. Everything in South African that makes their product locally, that is of a high quality nature, that renders a proper service. Wendy unpacked it for us. Stuart unpacked it for us. All those entities, whether they are on the Stuart side of the business or on the Wendy side of the business, everyone who qualifies can take up membership of Proudly South African.
Fantastic. Thank you, CEO. I know that Stuart had to jump off the call. I think we may have, Wendy had to do the same thing as well. Oh, Stuart is here. I'm sorry, Stuart. Great. Stuart is still here. There's just a nice comment that says that I like how he introduces himself or herself, anonymous, all protocol observed. You see, there's order right there. That's how he opens up his comment. And then he says, good morning, my name is Lloyd. We are currently testing our platform in both the formal and informal food businesses in the Randburg area. And have seen with the implementation of the Afri-Food system in the Quarter Shop, we not only increasing sales, but we have created 2 new jobs in the small business. We look forward to engaging more with Proudly South African and RCL Foods to see how else we can make a contribution. Just a lovely, comment from somebody who joined in today. Please, can we share Wendy's details? We will do that, and then. Thank you for this great platform, greatly appreciated. Thank you, Simele, for the informative session. Is it possible to get a copy of your presentation? There, Simele, they also want your ID number, which we will gladly give them. And amazing business concept for entrepreneurs, Simele. Well done. An amazing presentation, Stuart. A commendable work that you've done and you keep doing, which is fantastic to see. And then there's something else that I would like to. The last one I'd like to take is. I represent a startup organization called Next Curve Creations. We would like to find out how we can participate in the restaurant industry case study. We believe our value proposition can be readily repurposed to assist the restaurant industry. I would imagine that this is a discussion that Dumi Lezaba can possibly have with Wendy, CEO, or anybody who'd like to, take that.
Very welcoming. Thank you.
Yeah. Wendy, I'm so sorry I wrote you off completely. I thought I couldn't see you on the screen. I'm glad to see you here. Okay, great. Please go ahead. Can you hear me, Wendy?
Yes, no, I was just saying thank you. I'm happy to have those connections. I'm happy for people to be connected to me.
Okay, and in terms of the last comment that I read where somebody is saying that, because I thought that it's well placed with you, he says he represents a company and he would like to find out how they can participate in the restaurant industry case study. Does that, do you have a comment on that?
I'm happy to connect with him. He's welcome to get hold of me on my cell phone and I'm happy to assist him.
Thank you so much. That's noted. Thank you, Wendy. I see being they're talking. Somebody is saying Pumzile Nkomo is making mention of the temporary pivoting your business into roadhouse type of a setup. He thinks that it's a great idea for some of those businesses that are struggling. I'm not aware of any other comment that is largely different to some of the things that as most of the people on the platform have said. I'm just checking my WhatsApp messages from comments on Facebook that the team is making me aware of. Hi, Wendy. We understand that some businesses have resorted to the drive-in concept, where people are served in their cars. How popular is this? I wonder if you know roughly how many have resorted to this and what other innovative ways in the industry are coming up. That's non-Dumiso. Thanks, Wendy.
Thanks. Look, it's a concept that's really getting a lot of momentum. It's definitely site dependent, so it doesn't lend itself for every single restaurant. And you really need to gauge the mood of your customers. So, you need to look if there's an area, does it lend itself for nighttime trade, is an opportunity. Some of the restaurants have really done magnificent work with these roadshows. There's one particular V8 in Hartbeespoort Dam has really done a full-on road house. A couple of others that come to mind, some of the franchise groups have done something more simple. So it is certainly well worth looking at if your environment lends itself to it. You're welcome again to phone me if you want some advice on it. Happy to give you some consultation to see if your site or your restaurant or the area or your LSM group does lend itself to doing that. And then we do have a Facebook page where there's a lot of innovation that we're constantly looking at. We collaborate with suppliers on an ongoing basis. Suppliers contact us with new product, new developments, product developments, innovation, concepts, leads, etc. So you're welcome to just track us on Facebook and have a look at all those amazing things that are on there at the moment in terms of packaging, uniforms, sanitization, PPE gear, just doing a whole bunch of great things for the industry. Thanks.
Fantastic. And my parting shot, Wendy, to you is that I have a friend who owns a restaurant in Soweto called 48. Her name is Lele. She's got amazing things to say about you and the incredible work that you do in the industry. I just thought I'd let you know. It's a private conversation I had with her. I might be in trouble for having shared, but I think you need to know, these what the industry thinks of you. Thank you so much for your contribution today. Your closing comments?
Just, we're all in this together and we collaborating and we're in unity and we just have to stay positive. All storms come to an end. At the end of the storm is a beautiful rainbow. And I know it's a short time away. We can't continue through this difficulty without some joy and some beautiful gifts. And as long as we all continue to take care about each other and we take care of our industry, we can only have a beautiful, amazing South Africa at the end of the rainbow. So my phone is open to anybody. I know sometimes you feel desperate and you feel traumatized, but you have to just get up. And restaurants here just now contacted me and said, why am I getting up every day? I said, we get up because we've got dreams. We gave people hopes. We gave people a purpose. We gave people an opportunity to feel that they have a sense of belonging. And we owe it to everybody in South Africa to continue to live the dreams that we have and to take the people who journey with us, who become inspired through us and who we become inspired through, and just keep making South Africa the most beautiful place in the world. I'm excited. I love it. It's my home. Proudly to be South African and proud to be associated with all the beautiful people that serve our industry so effortlessly. So thank you. I know in difficult times, you'll all come back to work very soon. I have great faith in that. Thank you.
And I would imagine that a lot of us lately have felt that there's nothing to be proud of, especially if you're a business that's really struggling and a lot of other things are happening around you. You're like, what is there to be proud of? But there's so much. There's really, really so much. We just have to find it and identify it. And when we do find it, just hang on to it, because that's what's going to keep you going. Wendy, you remain the strength of the industry. We thank you for your time. Thank you so much. Okay, your closing comments, Stuart?
Look, firstly, I'd like to also thank Wendy for the amazing work and the amazing voice she continues to put out there and play on behalf of the industry. It's appreciated by everybody, and it's a very thankless task. So thank you very much, Wendy. Look, I think just on that question from the next Curve Creations person, I just Googled it quickly. It seems to be an app that gives township retailers access to manufacturers So by all means, also share my email address with him. I don't know how to do that. I didn't see where the question was. And I'll see if I can also help with what he's trying to do there. Because I think that's what it seemed to be. You know, I think he's got some way of getting larger manufacturers to try and talk to smaller businesses. Let's have a conversation about what's going on in that space and see if we can help. Yeah, and I think then just finally to similarly to Wendy, I think as Wendy said, most people are very happy to come back and are coming back, and there is far more positivity towards our industry than we think. So do be positive. My views, my comments around safety weren't that most people are scared, just that some people are. And just for us as operators to keep the higher ground around operating safely as we are, to make sure that we reassure people in that journey back to our restaurants. They will be coming. And I think that Ubuntu spirit that's been exaggerated by the last couple of weeks has given even more momentum to that return. So I hope that the government safely moves to lower levels of restriction soon, so that we can continue to welcome more people back and get our businesses back onto a stable foundation. And rest assured, we as a business will stand alongside the industry with that and do everything we can to make sure it happens as quickly as possible and we get as many people back on their feet as possible. Yeah, that's it.
Thank you so much, Stuart. Your support throughout all these months since we met with you as Proudly South African has really been fantastic. And we know that we can call on you at any time and you show up just like you did today. We really appreciate you and your time and the work that you do with your respective organizations and, in the industry. Thank you, Stuart. Much appreciated. Thank you. Simele, your turn, please, your closing remarks.
Thank you, Happy. I think for us, it's just continuing to grow, continuing to establish and help establish ghost kitchens in the restaurant industry. And most importantly, give opportunity to youth and young people who want to enter the restaurant industry. I think it's a great way to enter. It's a great way to grow your business. And I think that's what we want to continue to do. And like you said earlier, join the Proudly South African movement and be part of that and take advantage of all the, the resources you guys provide. Because I think it's not only going to be beneficial to our business, but it's going to be beneficial to the brands that work with us as well in our facilities. And I think it's just important for us to establish ourselves as not as a replacement or a short-term solution to the restaurant industry, but as part of the growth of the restaurant industry, because that's what we feel we are. We feel like online delivery is here to stay, and it's going to be here for a very long time. And as that grows, ghost kitchens are going to become just as important. So we want to establish that importance of ghost kitchens as part of the restaurant industry and helping that grow and helping that become better and recover from the situation that we currently find ourselves in. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Simele. The last comment I saw about your presentation, somebody says your business idea or concept is a game changer. I think that's a nice putting shot. Thank you so much. We appreciate your time and thanks for reaching out to us. And I'm sure we will see you beyond this discussion when you are an official member of the campaign. Thank you. Terence, are you online? Your parting shot, please.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you, Happy. From my side, I would like to say, I think in order for this country to move in the direction that we all want it to, collaboration is key. Collaboration to actually make sure that we broaden the value chain even further. Stuart, Wendy, and Simele, already I can see potential collaboration with yourselves in future, because people like Terence, Simele, I don't know where you grew up. I hail from the township. I know exactly the challenges that happen on the ground. And these are the things that
I think Terence's connection may be unstable. But with that said, may I ask Eustace to give your parting shot? In fact, before that, I'm hoping Terence can hear me, is that, for Youth Month, we undertook a campaign to take a number of students to different plants, manufacturing plants in different industries, to try and expose them to entrepreneurship ideas that are out there. We focused on the clothing and textile sector, where we took them to David Tlale's factory and his operation to expose them to their environment outside of what we all see on the ramp. Then we took them to OBC to expose them to the poultry industry, and we were going to take them to, we're engaging you, Terence, to come to your factory and from a manufacturing perspective to expose some of these students who are in that line of work or interest rather, to see what you do. But then level 4 hit us, and then we couldn't continue with it. But the plan is to do it again when we can, when we're allowed to go out there. Eustace, are you here?
Yes, I'm here.
Your parting shot, please. There we go.
Thank you. I think my parting shot one is to thank all the speakers who made time today. I think this is an industry that contributes a lot to the GDP, to the livelihoods of many in the country. Stuart touched on the value chain, which is important. I think if you replay the numbers that he touched on in terms of how many people each dish touches on, I think it shows you the importance of this industry. So I'm glad that as Proudly South African, we're able to zoom into it, because what we stand for is the uptake and consumption of locally made products and services. And this industry gives us that opportunity directly and indirectly. And so amazing work being done by Simele. Well done, my brother. Very amazing work being done. And I touched on what Wendy does and the impact she is making. We've seen you throughout lockdown on the news. You've been there with us. One meal, many thanks, is a campaign close to our hearts. We punt it everywhere. So Stuart, thank you very much for what you are doing together with RCL Foods and the rest of your partners that are part of that campaign. To Terence, who's a member, and I think one of the things that should have been mentioned is the fact that that franchise initiative that we took Terence to as a Black-owned company that affiliates with Proudly South African, that makes a locally made product. That's where he met the OBC guys. That's how he ended up having his products on all retail shelves of OBC. So well done to the Proudly SA team that continue to make those opportunities available to local producers. We also, I think, are of the view that our work should extend beyond what consumers see, but to what is consumed by the private sector and the public sector. And that's why a lot of the focus is on there. So if you're an entrepreneur out there and your product is not necessarily targeted at consumers, you are part of the conversation. Join the campaign. info@proudlysa.co.za. Go to proudlysa.co.za and join the Buy Local movement. Help your business access markets, because that is what we are about. So thank you very much to the team and to everyone else who was part of the conversation today. Thank you.
And thank you so much, Eustace. And my parting shot is that the boss has spoken. After your boss speaks, you can't mess it up. You just leave it. All I want to add to that is that obviously we've thanked the speakers. I want to say thank you to Team Proudly South African who put all of this together. Thank you, colleagues. And of course, the attendees who stayed on for 2 hours or so. Thank you so much. You could have been anywhere during that time, but you chose to be with us. We thank you, and we hope that from this session you really take away a lot of stuff that you can possibly implement in your businesses or consider or think about, or whatever the case may be. We really, really hope that this is invaluable and you learned quite a bit from this discussion. It is a wrap from me. Thank you, everybody. Keep well, take care, still mask up, sanitize, and be mindful of the social distancing. We're not out of the woods as yet. The pandemic is still here. We all know that. But thank you so much for your time. We will see you soon. Thank you. Goodbye. Bye, everybody.
Bye.